All right, welcome back with a quick little review here, this time for North America. Doing this right before I do my power rankings video, which I'm going to be uploading later today. But before I get into it, I just want to say thank you guys so much for 1,000 subscribers. The fact that I even just said those words is still amazing to me. The overwhelming amount of positivity and support from you guys has been really amazing. The fact that you guys watch my content and enjoy it so much really means a lot to me. So yeah, thank you guys so much. Here's to 1,000 more. And we're going to keep the content coming. And I'll likely end up saying this message again in my power rankings video later today, just because those tend to be more popular videos of mine. And of course, want as many people watching the channel to hear that as possible. So yeah, I just felt it was mandatory to say it now because, of course, this is my first video that I'm uploading since hitting 1K. But yeah, so jumping into it with the usual format, starting with the upper division and then the lower division. Going through the matches, things kicked off again on January 5th, where we had Wildcard taking down Black and Yellow 2-1. Black and Yellow taking a game off of Wildcard, who has looked really, really good ever since that first week of Dota, ever since the rough start, I should say, in week 1. Wildcard tried running this offlane Broodmother, if I'm not mistaken, in game 1, which didn't exactly work out, and Black and Yellow capitalized on that perfectly. But in the rest of the series, Wildcard showing why they have been one of the best teams in the region this season for sure, as they come ahead with 2 very quick wins to finish off the series. Later that day, we had Simply 2Base taking on Arkosh, and things are just going from bad to worse for Arkosh. I mean, Simply 2Base really needed this win. They were winless so far at this point in the season, and Arkosh had their moments. Game 1, it looked like they may have had a few openings here and there, but they just slipped away from them so quickly. And to Simply 2Base's credit, you know, although they've definitely been one of the weakest teams of any upper division in this whole DPC, they looked pretty good in this series. So they take the win 2-0, and again, game 2 was not very close whatsoever. Simply 2Base playing quite well. Following that, on January 8th, we had some more maybe heavy-hitting titles clashing. We had, first off, Evil Geniuses up against 4 Zoomers. Evil Geniuses take that one 2-0, and ever since the new year, of course, we don't have Nightfall playing in for them anymore. MSS has come in to sub for the remainder of the tour. If there is going to be a major, I believe they said that Nightfall would be returning for the major, but until then, it's going to be MSS playing the remainder of their series. But yeah, this looks like a brand new Evil Geniuses team. Whether or not it's because MSS was maybe the piece that they were lacking in Nightfall, or it's because some of the teams or some of the players, I should say, that maybe weren't as well versed or practiced yet, like JRX coming out of retirement, have gotten better over time, and the team is starting to gel a little bit better. Either way, whatever it is, EG looks much more dominant in 2022 than they did in 2021, and that's for sure, as they get a nice win over 4 Zoomers here. Arteezy popping off on his Terrorblade in game 1. They looked very good. Following that, we had Quincy Crew taking on Undying, and this was the match I was very, very much looking forward to. Both of these teams at this point in the season were undefeated. They were clashing for the first time, and the game went to the series went to 3 games, which was fantastic, although I wish the games were maybe a little bit closer. It felt like every single game was a pretty quick one-sided game for each team. And as opposed to what we've been seeing from Undying, this past week, Undying has really been struggling to play from behind, which is what they usually excel at, especially against some of the weaker teams in the region. We didn't see so much of that this past week, notably against Quincy Crew or Evil Geniuses. So yeah, Quincy Crew takes this series 2-1 and secure themselves the #1 seed in this region and are undefeated to this point. Following that, Quincy Crew plays again. They play against Black and Yellow. Now, they do drop a game to Black and Yellow. It was a pretty close game heading into the mid-game, but overall, Black and Yellow just had very, very good mid-game team fighting. Their coordination was really good. Their draft was really built for that mid-game, and Quincy Crew didn't really have a response for it. And so after having such an impressive series a few days before, all of a sudden, Quincy Crew was down 1-0 against one of the weirder teams in the region, I'll say. I'll get more into it in my power rankings, how I feel about Black and Yellow. But no, the rest of the series was Quincy Crew's 100%. Again, same thing for when Black and Yellow lost a wild card. They take that game 1, maybe a little bit more surprisingly than some people would have expected. But in the end, the better team does come back and win the remainder of the series 2-1. And then finally, ending things off on January 12th, we had Evil Geniuses taking down Undying. So Undying, after being undefeated heading into this week, all of a sudden take 2 back-to-back losses. And sure, they are against some of the better teams, but it's what I was a little bit worried about with Undying heading into the season. I projected that they would probably be the #1 team in the region, but they are still seeming to struggle with keeping up with the best teams in the region, those being Quincy Crew, and now that Evil Geniuses looking back in form, Evil Geniuses as well, which if you guys recall, Undying just barely missed out on both majors last year, some of which from tiebreakers because they just were not able to overcome the hump of beating these two teams on a consistent rate. So they dropped that series. And again, to EG's credit, not to take anything away from them and saying that Undying was playing bad, EG, again, has been playing fantastically since the new year. Again, whether or not that's because of MSS or the players just gelling better or some of them getting a little bit less rusty like Jirex, yeah, they are looking pretty fantastic. And then finally, to end off the week, we have Wildcard taking down Simply 2Base 2-0, which was pretty much a complete stomp there. So taking a look at the standings now, remaining in first place since my last review, Quincy Crew, who are still, again, to this point, undefeated. They are 6-0, and if there is going to be a major, they are 100% secured for that. I should have written their name in green there, I apologize. Following that, in second place, dropping down one spot because of that loss and these couple of losses that they've had, Undying is now sitting in second place, tied with Wildcard Gaming and Evil Geniuses, who both move up one spot from third place into that second place role. So the last spot for the major is really up in the air right now. We have no idea who's going to be getting it. Each of these three teams has one series left, and that last series is likely going to be the deciding factor of whether or not you're making it to the major. And if they all manage to win their series, or if only a couple of them do, then there will be tiebreakers, which I think is really, really exciting. But yeah, Undying, after going 4-0 in the season, now suddenly they're looking like they could potentially miss the major, which is not something I was really expecting to say, especially after that hot start. Following that, in fifth place, dropping down 2 spots, 4 Zoomers, who started off the season pretty strongly, but are definitely starting to show signs of weakness, especially when it comes to beating the better teams in the region, like Undying, like Evil Geniuses, like Quincy Crew, which they have notably struggled with in the past, and it's starting to catch up to them a little bit right now as they drop down quite a bit and definitely fall out of the race to the major. They are not going to be attending that. Following that, in sixth place, staying there from last week, we have Arkosh. Again, things have not really gotten better for Arkosh, but they have less games played than some of the teams below them, which is why they're still in sixth place. And then in seventh place, we have Black and Yellow and Simply 2Base tied at a 1-5 record. So again, Simply 2Base, they get their first win of the entire season this week. They beat Arkosh, but they're still at risk of getting eliminated from this upper division. Taking a look at some stats now, there have been 53 matches played in total in North America's upper division. 25 of those Radiant wins, 28 Dire, and for first and last pick, the same ratio there, 25 wins for first pick and 28 for last pick. However, contrary to some other regions, it's not like every single game has been your either Radiant first pick or Dire last pick. There has been a little bit more variation. Not an astounding amount, but you know, it's been more than some other regions. For top heroes, we have Shadow Demon, who's 6-1 so far, Timbersaw 7-2, and Luna 13-4. Again, I've talked about this week in and week out. In some regions like Western Europe, the hero is 2-10, and then in some regions like North America, the hero is one of the best of the region. 13-4 is a very, very impressive win rate. And again, for worst heroes, Razor showing up, who has been a popular hero pretty much everywhere, been doing very, very well, not in North America. 0-4. Grimstroke 1-7. Again, mainly played by the best support of all time, Gremlo, who of course plays for the best team of all time, Arkosh. And I know the record may not look like it, but they are actually playing some of the best Dota in the world right now. They're just forfeiting a lot of matches, and not deliberately, not like actively forfeiting. They're just playing really terribly on purpose to avoid any sort of attention towards their drafts and strategies and whatnot. So that's a big part of why Grimstroke has such a low win rate. And then Pangolier 2-8. For most banned, we have Weaver with 34, Mars with 33, and then Invoker and Beastmaster with 26. For the top teams, when it comes to GPM, Undying still leads the way. Again, after having a pretty rough week, their stats from before that are still looking quite solid. 2286 for GPM, Evil Geniuses with 2278, and Quincy Crew with 2260. So all three of those teams very, very close to one another when it comes to stats. For top XPM, Quincy Crew has 2818, 2735 for Undying, and 2721 for Wildcard, so EG not showing up on the XPM. And then for top KDA, we have Quincy Crew leading the way with 5.64, then Evil Geniuses with 5.13, and Undying with 4.21. And then for top players now, Custabile or Custabile leading the way for GPM with 732 from 4 Zoomers. He's been having himself a hell of a season. It's just, again, the team has not been able to overcome the hurdles of beating the best in the region. We then have Arteezy with 674, and Eve's with Eve was 641. We then have top XP on Eve leading there with 719. Yawar with 713, tied with Quinn, who also has 713. And then for top KDA, Abed leads the way with 11.16. Then Tomato with 8.6, and Nightfall with 8.19, who again will not be playing the remainder of the tour. If there is a major, he will be returning, but until then, MSS will be taking his spot. So yeah, this has been the upper division the past week of DPC Dota. Again, 3 teams right now tied for that second spot, tied for that last spot for the major, if there ends up being one. It's been a hell of a race so far. I'm really hoping that Undying doesn't choke this one away, because again, they were 4-0 heading into this week. They had a rough week against Evil Geniuses and Quincy Crew, but I still think they're one of the better teams in this region. But again, Evil Geniuses has looked like a brand new team ever since the new year, and they're definitely looking like one of the strongest of the region. I believe they have yet to play against Quincy Crew to this point, so I'm pretty excited about that one. But yeah, all in all, and again, wildcard, what a fantastic surprise wildcard has been. Again, they started off their season playing against Undying, who notably was probably not the easiest opponent to start with, but they looked really bad in that first series. And ever since then, they've gone 4-1, and they've looked really, really good in those series. They've taken a win over Evil Geniuses, who notably maybe at that time were not playing their best Dota, but it's a win nonetheless. And so again, I'm really excited to see who ends up making it in the top 2, finishing in second right behind Quincy Crew. So yeah, you guys can let me know what you guys think of this past week of Dota in North America. Who do you guys think is going to make it to the major? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, heading into the lower division, as I usually do, I'm going to be breezing through this a little bit more quickly than the upper division, just because I'm not able to put as much attention into the lower division as I do the upper division. So starting things off, we have the Cut taking down Felt 2-0. The Cut continuing to be one of the best teams in the region, definitely looking like one of the teams that is going to be making it back into the upper division. Now, if you guys recall, in the last season, they were in the upper division and it went pretty terribly. They have since gone through some roster changes and they have looked really, really good ever since. But again, they looked this good 2 seasons ago, and it didn't work out in the upper division for them. So we'll see how that goes. But until then, they're looking really, really good right now. Following that, on January 9th, we had Dogchamp taking down Magnus 2-0. Dogchamp, another team that's been having a really good season so far. KBU.US taking down 5-Man Midas 2-1. We then have on January 10th, Felt taking down 5-Rat Forstaff 2-1. That was a bit of an upset. 5-Rat Forstaff has been playing quite well in this lower division, but they let this one slip away from them. And then KBU.US getting another win this week up against Electronic Boys, who again lose this series in 3 games. Every single series that Electronic Boys has played thus far has gone to 3 games, and they just have a terrible win rate in game 3s, as they are currently sitting at the bottom of the standings 1-5. Again, their 1-5 record is not really telling as to how well they've been playing in certain times. They just are really, really struggling to close out series when they either get a lead or when they come back and win game 2. Again, it's going to be a real shame if they do end up getting relegated. There are some teams that are barely ahead of them right now, but yeah, it would be real painful to see these guys get relegated when they've been playing pretty decently well. They're just not getting the results that they need. And at the end of the day, those results might not end up being good enough to stay in the DPC. Following that, again, ahead of them in 6th place, dropping 1 spot each. 5-Man Midas and Magnus are 1-4 at the moment. Ahead of them, we have Felt, who is currently sitting in the same spot they were last week, who is 2-4, with a win and a loss this week. Following that, in 3rd place, we have 5-Rat Forstaff and KBU.US, who are 4-2 at the moment. In 2nd place, moving up 1 spot, we have Dogchamp, who is 4-1. And then finally, in 1st place, as mentioned, the Cut, 5-0. So the top 4 teams in this region are all very, very close to one another. The bottom 2 of which, being 5-Rat Forstaff and KBU.US, are a little bit further behind in the race for that top 2 finish. Those 2 losses definitely hurts their case. But anyways, yeah, again, as for most regions and divisions in the DPC right now, this finishing is going to go down to the wire. Again, all 4 teams in the top right now of this division are in contention for that top 2 spot, which means all the more likelihood for tiebreakers. Anyways, looking now at some stats, there have been 58 matches played in total, which is definitely a large amount of numbers due to the fact that, again, Electronic Boys has sent every series that they've played so far 2-3 games. Radiant has won 32 of those 58 games, Dire 26. And then for first and last pick, first pick has only won 25 to Dire's 33. Last pick's 33. For top heroes, we have Bristleback, who's 5-0. Medusa, 9-1. Very, very strong hero in this region so far. Has looked generally a North America style hero. you know, the farm first, fight later type hero, which is definitely a huge reason as to why the hero's been doing so well. And then Leshrac, who is 5-1 so far, a hero that we also have not been seeing all that much in the DPC. Maybe a little bit more in China. That is definitely a Chinese type of flare hero, but yeah, not being picked all that much in the current meta. We then have for worst heroes, again, Razor showing up as in the upper division, 0-4 so far, Timbersaw, who is 1-7, and Faceless Void and Phantom Assassin, who are 2-5. For most banned, we have Weaver with 33, OD with 31, and Invoker with 30. For top teams, when it comes to GPM, the Cut leads the way with 2499 GPM, which is very high. Again, they've been playing very, very well. Following that, we have KBU with 2408 and DogChamp with 2387. For top XPM, DogChamp leads the way with over 3K, 3068. Very, very high XPM for DogChamp. Same thing for the Cut, who just barely passed 3000. They're at 3001. And then 5-Rat Staff with 2962. For top KDA, the Cut leads the way with 5.34. Following that, KBU with 3.61 and 5-Rat Staff for 3.53. Keep in mind, for any team that came in through the open qualifiers in this lower division, the stats on Dota Buff include the stats from their qualifiers, so their numbers may be a little bit skewed. Teams like 5-Rat Staff and KBU.US I'm talking about, so I did include them for the top teams on this list, but I do not have any players showing up on the top players list for them, again, because their stats have been so much more skewed. And in general, individual player stats get skewed a lot more easily than overall team stats. So anyways, with that out of the way, leading the way for GPM, we have Scourge McDuck for the fourth week in a row now. He's been having a hell of a season for the Cut with a 739. We then have Stonebank with 700 and Fade with 675. For top XPM, Fade leads the way with 812, Scourge McDuck with the 790, and Comfort with 746. And then finally for top KDA, we have Fade leading the way with 10.67. We then have Scourge McDuck with 9.67 and Kits with 7.47. So yeah, again, another division where the ending is going to come down to the wire. I'm very excited to see who ends up making it. Right now, it looks like the only one who looks like they're pretty much secured is the Cut. As for DogChamp, they do have that one series advantage over the other two teams chasing them. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're guaranteed to make it. For teams like Undying, for example, who did have that lead, who were 4-0, they're now 4-2, and they have been caught up to by 2 other teams so far. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, thank you guys so much for 1K subscribers. Power rankings coming later today after this video. I'm going to start recording that actually immediately after this. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.